Hello, my name is Asha, and I am also known as the Intuitive Wanderess. Welcome to the magical and mystical space where we dive deep into what it means to trust ourselves and follow our own paths. Join me as we manifest a life that meets our heart's desires, filled with abundance and fun. Okay, so let's take a second to talk a little bit. I'm going to be honest, I'm feeling a little nervous doing this. This is my first time, but it's not my first time. I talk a lot. If you look at the voice recordings on my phone, if you can just spend a millisecond with me when I'm by myself, I'm talking all the time. So I don't know why I'm making this more of a bigger deal than it is. But hey, we're here and we're getting started. And today's topic is actually going to be on getting started. The power of taking action. And we're going to talk a little bit about the psychological term. I believe it's followed by Sigmund Freud, and it's repetitive compulsion, and how we have the ability to, or the tendency, should I say, to continue a pattern over and over again subconsciously through our thoughts, beliefs, actions, feelings, emotions, even if it's going to create an unfavorable outcome. Yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, so let's go to a reputable source. The source that we all use. We first go to Google and then we look at Wikipedia. Wikipedia's definition of repetition compulsion is, it's a psychological phenomenon in which a person repeats an event or its circumstances over and over again. This includes reenacting the event or putting oneself in situations where the event is likely to happen again. This reliving can also take form of dreams in which memories and feelings of what happened are repeated and even hallucinated. All right, so I am definitely guilty of repetition compulsion. I think we all are. And I think it's a great concept to open the conversation about procrastination and perfectionism. I feel like a good part of repetitive compulsion is almost wanting to be perfect at a situation. So, for example, if you're in a relationship or you're in a on and off again relationship, situationship, and you keep trying to go back, even though you know deep down it's like going to be the same kind of situation, same failed attempt, but you continuously go back and try to make it work, and you get into this toxic cycle because perhaps you're trying to master the situation. Perhaps you're thinking, if I can just do this right, if I can get my point across, if I could just show this person what they're missing, then we can finally be together. I can have the love that I deserve. Repetition compulsion also shows up in the way that we procrastinate. I have been anticipating creating a podcast for too long now. And every time that I would start to get into the process of starting a podcast, I would fold. I would hesitate and I would pull back. I would either get distracted, I would get into the same cycle of feeling like I needed more information, more structure, more organization, rather than just freeballing it, honestly. Just getting started. Because I know that if I get started, that is something that I've never done before. I've never gotten started with this podcast. So if I get started with this podcast, then that leaves me in a space of high anxiety because I'm now in an unfamiliar territory. And a huge part of repetition compulsion is our desire to stay safe, our desire to make things easier for ourselves, to keep things familiar. And it's pretty easy for the subconscious mind to stick with what's worked. I know what the predictable outcome is if I continue to procrastinate with this podcast. The outcome is I never get started. The outcome is I don't move into potentially creating something that I enjoy and that I love and that I get to share with other people. The unfamiliar territory is, what if I create a podcast and everyone hates it? What if I create a podcast and I suck at it? What if I create a podcast and I'm good at it? All of those things are unfamiliar territory. They're unpredictable. And even if it can be something completely amazing, it's still unsafe because it's something that I've never experienced. And I feel like a lot of times we beat ourselves up because we don't necessarily understand how our mind is working, especially the subconscious mind. And we feel like, okay, if I can just do something a little different, or if I can just, bully myself into this, then we'll be fine. But I've noticed that the only thing that has helped me with repetition compulsion, repetitive compulsion, is noticing it, becoming aware of the pattern, asking myself, is this what you want to continue to do? And then from there, in that moment, not on Monday, not next week, not next month, in that moment, doing something that is going to shake it up. So even when it came to the podcast, and I'm not going to keep blabbing about this podcast for every episode, I promise you. Even when it came to this podcast, I said to myself, what is the worst thing that can happen if you just start recording yourself? I mean, seriously, go ahead and record yourself. If you hate it, you can simply delete it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And I kind of sat there and I was like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. Like, duh. And as I was sitting here getting ready to record for you guys, like, I was just so nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? Oh, I'm not comfortable. People are around right now. And it's all of the mechanisms involved to keep your subconscious beliefs rooted, safe, and firmly grounded in your being so that you can continuously repeat the cycle. The same reason why you continue to go back to your partner, even though you know the relationship has failed, could partly be because subconsciously that's what's familiar. But if you really sit back and ask yourself, is that partner showing me in this very current moment what it is that I truly want? Is this person showing up in the way that I deserve? And if the answer is no, then you need to take this reality, this current moment, and you need to act accordingly. And it's really as simple as that. It's as simple as becoming aware of the pattern that you're creating, asking yourself, is this what I want to continue to do? And then taking the very first step, whatever it is, big or small, making some actionable step to shift yourself. You know what I mean? So that is what we're doing today. That is what we are going to be doing and talking a lot more about, because ultimately we want to live an amazing life. Like, I don't know about you all, but I love life. I'm so blessed and so thankful and so grateful to be here. And it really elevated for me when I started to realize that I am the creator of my life. I am the one that gets to make choices on how I respond to life. And the choices that I make are the choices that are going to determine how good this life is, honestly. And I definitely have fallen in love with so many different philosophies. I'm open to so many things. I don't care what it is, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, universal laws, that kind of conversation around spirituality, law of attraction, Abraham Hicks, Neville Goddard, manifestation, anything that is supporting the idea that I have power and that I can create the life that I want to live, I'm here for it. So in this podcast, if you're interested, we are going to talk about 3 core values. And those 3 core values include: 1, taking responsibility over your life. You have the ability, you have a choice to either react to life, because life is going to throw some things at you. It is what it is. But you're going to either choose to react and oftentimes allow external circumstances and people to take away your power, or you're going to respond based on what you want, what you intend, what you need in this life. You're going to realize that you have the power. The second core value is going to be knowing that it gets to be easy and it gets to be fun. A lot of the times when we go into personal development and conversations about spirituality, it feels so cumbersome. It feels so heavy. It feels like I'm never going to finish. I'm never going to figure this out. I'm never going to manifest what it is that I want. I just can't have it. And a part of my mission is to remind you and myself that it gets to be easy. It gets to be simple, and it gets to be fun. We have this human body that we get to nourish and take care of, that we get to listen to, that leads us in so many ways. And it's just absolutely imperative that we learn to trust ourselves, which is the 3rd core value. Learning to trust yourself. Self-esteem, trusting yourself, and realizing that your authentic self is your abundant self. The truer you are to who you really are. Does that make sense? The truer you are to who you really are, the more abundance you will experience. Life gets richer when you say yes to yourself, when you allow your heart's desires to bloom and flourish, when you listen to what you want, what you need, instead of going off with the shoulds, the coulds, the supposed to, the society rules. And I'm not saying that there aren't things that we shouldn't keep in mind and be aware of and mindful of. But what I am saying is it doesn't have to always be at the expense of losing ourselves. So those are the 3 core values that we're going to be dibbling and dabbling in throughout these podcast episodes. And if you're interested in that, and also anything just majestic, mystical, spiritual, fun, whatever, stick around. It's got some good stuff. We'll keep this short. I appreciate you all for listening, and take care.